when you started with your general elections in Guyana. It was 1953 in Guyana. So I want to talk a little bit on transition of the political mobilization in terms of ethnicity. And then, of course, the multi-ethnic claims in the 2020 elections amid of populism of the previous administration and the severe financial economic crisis, and how political parties in Suriname in the last election had their, what I call the fishing strategies in the Surinamese pond of ethnic diversity. Let me just take you to the last election, the pre-election context, to understand the election we had on the 25th of May this year. This election was lost by the NDP, that is the National Democratic Party of Desiree Bouterse. And what happened is that this NDP administration created a sharp dichotomy within the society and also among the voters due to bad financial governance, media strategy and propaganda. And just a couple of months before the elections, that the pre-electoral combinations, so not electrical, but the electoral combinations, that is something that is common in Surinamese elections, that was prohibited, by a law. And the response on the eve of the elections was that for the first time we had so many watchdogs. We had various watchdogs by civil society, initiatives by civil society. And just to mention some, the National Observatory, the Anti-Fraud Network, and other small civil society networks of young people, they all emerged in response to a potential electoral fraud. And civil society and the political opposition, we had various polls, and all these polls indicated that the National Democratic Party had lost ground. And the polls also indicated a huge share of, floating voters, 30 to 40%. And among this group of floating voters, the floating voters were crucial, and we can characterize the voting voters, a large part of them as a silent majority, and who largely voted against the NDP on the day of elections. So the new government in Suriname that was installed in July should not forget that civil society is socially the big winner of the very strange 2020 election we had in Suriname. And to give you an idea of the election results, you see many parties. So if you count, you will end up at 17 parties. And you see at the end, at the right, you see parties who casted only, let me see, DNW means the new wind. The new wind, 73 votes nationwide. So that is not much. And at the left, at the top, you will see the VHP, that is the party of Chandrika Santokhi. Before it was the United Hindustani Party, but they changed their name in the United Reformed Party, if you translate it. And you see that they had, of the approximately, it was 380, we had 84,000 voters. And the turnout was approximately 70 something percent. So they won 107,969 votes. So they casted that number nationwide. But you know, Suriname has a different system. So it is a proportionate system. It is not a majority wins all like you had in Guyana before. It is a proportionate system, but it is proportionate by district. And we have 10 districts in Suriname, electoral districts, and it is proportionate within the districts. So the VHP won all the seats. They won 20 of the 51 National Assembly seats. So 20 of the 51. And that was for the VHP, a landslide. And if you look at the second bar of the NDP, they had nationwide 65,332 votes casted. And that is half of what they casted in 2015. In 2015 elections, the NDP had 117 votes nationwide. So this is less than half, the 65,332. And the NDP gained only 16 seats in the National Assembly. So they fell back from 26 in 2015, 26 seats. So the absolute majority to 16 seats. Okay, so, and then you see the remainder of the parties. The NPS is the National Party of Suriname, and the ABOP. So those at the left, VHP, NPS, ABOP is the Maroon Party, and the PL is the Japanese Party. They formed a coalition government in July with in total 33 seats in the National Assembly. Just to give you an idea of what happened since we had the election on the 25th of May. Okay, now to give you a small idea of what happened in Suriname in the past, what is it, 40, no, it is 22, 2020, 1987, 33 years of elections. So we had 9 elections since 1987. So if you look at the red line, so the red line shows you the traditional coalition of what we call the old political parties. So in all the coalitions, there were the major political parties are the VHP, that was previously the Hindustani party, the NPS, previously the party of what we call the Creoles and mixed, so the blacks and the mixed people. And then the PL is the Japanese party, the SPA is the party of the laborers. And so they were in most of the elections, they were in one pre-electoral combination, not in all, but in most of the 9 elections we had since 1987. So I just show you the line of what the votes they casted nationwide. And you see that it is from 90% in 1987, that was after the military regime, the first election, and it dropped below the 50% in 2000, in the year 2000, 2005, 2010, and 2015. And in 2020, it's the first time that not all of the coalition parties, but the VHP, the party that won the elections, plus the NPS, also in the coalition now, and the PL, together, they have almost, let's say, 56% of the votes. So what you see is that there is structurally a decline, you know, in the votes cast by the traditional parties. So if you're looking at the purple line, that is the NDP, that is the party of Delano, Desiree Delano Bouterse. You see that since 1987, when they cast only 9% of the votes, that they structurally grew up to 49% in 2015. That is a lot. In 2015, they won. It was a landslide. And you see they dropped from 2015 to 2020. In 2020, they had, I already told you, they casted half of the votes they casted in 2015. Just to give you an idea. And then the green line are the other parties. So we have many, many parties participating in elections. Most of the time, it's something between, let's say, 16, 17, and 24, 25 political parties contesting in elections in Suriname. This is just to give you an idea of, you know, what happened over time since 1987. Okay, so let me go to ethnicity. So ethnicity, you know, is always a big discussion in the world, also in Suriname and Guyana, Trinidad, many countries. And, you know, in Suriname, in a cultural sense, I think in many countries, ethnicity has a very positive connotation culturally. And what I show you here is one of the, what we call the imagined cultural diversity in Suriname. So cultural diversity in the Surinamese society is celebrated the whole day, not only during national holidays, Eid al-Fitr or Holi or Emancipation, that is the day of abolition of slavery, or Maroon Day. So we have, I think we have more national holidays than Guyana. But beyond the national holidays, I think cultural diversity is something that is celebrated a lot, maybe most if you compare it with all the Caribbean nations. And the Alakondre Dron, I'm not going in depth, you see all the what we call in Spanish or in Portuguese, baterias, all the drumming things, you know, of the Amerindians, of the Maroon, of the Creole, of the Japanese people, you know, the gamelan. So all the instruments, so more than 20 instruments are present in, you know, this cultural diversity, this imagined cultural diversity. And it means, in short, that every instrument maintains its individuality. But Alakondre means all nations together. So the ethnic groups are, you know, symbolized by, let's say, a typical drumming, and that is equal to a nation, and it is all nations, all ethnic groups together, but without losing, you know, the individuality of each ethnic group. That is what the Alakondre Drong means. And it was institutionalized, I think, in 1971 at the Parlatino meeting that was held in Suriname by a cultural group that is called the Do Theater. You know, the Do Theater in Suriname. And this is very typical because what happened in Suriname is that mono-ethnicity was always, you know, something that was discussed. And many of the parties, the old parties established founded in the 40s of the previous century, in the 1940s during or after the Second World War, were mono-ethnic parties. So we had the first parties were the party of the Negroes, the party of the Muslims, the party of the Hindus, the party of the Japanese. That is the way it went in Suriname. So not like in Guyana that, you know, out of, you know, the trade union movement and the anti-colonial movement, that there was one huge party that was the PPP. No, it was the PPP, the Progressive People's Party, you know, with Jagan Burnham and Ashton, what is his name? Ashton Chase, I think. Anyway, so in Suriname, you know, they followed, you know, more the ethnic and religious way of establishing, founding political parties. That is the competition between parties on representing and mobilizing, you know, the voters within the Surinamese ethnic diversity. I just showing this, that what was influencing, what influenced the election results. One is, of course, that I said fishing in the multi-ethnic pond. That means that all the parties, all the 17 parties contesting in one or the other way, they all wanted to present, wanted to be multi-ethnic in many ways. Even the younger Maroon parties, like the party of Brunswick, you know, the ABAP was also in the government. In Facebook, you know, social media, there was a serious battle. It was a serious battle about being multi-ethnic or not, you know. So the NDP traditional claiming that they are the only multi-ethnic party in Suriname, they had to battle with all the other parties, and they were in the defense in the social media. And then, of course, at the bottom, you see fishing in the pond of the interior. So the interior in Suriname is 80% of our territory is the interior. And the competing parties in the interior were the party of Brunswick, the ABOP, another Maroon party, they call it the BEP, and the National Democratic Party of Bouterse. In the interior, you can win 10 seats. So it was the first time in the interior that there was a multi-ethnic battle. And the point is that if you look at the election results, I'm going to the next slide. Oh yeah, of course, the flags played an important role too. But let me go to, okay, this is a book in Dutch, Nation Building, Nazi Forming means nation building, and nation creation in Suriname. I use the word nation creation with a strict other meaning than nation building. I'm not going in detail today on this difference, but nation creation has more to do with the integration of ethnic groups, you know, that feel and imagine to respect each other, like the Alakondre Dron. So it is a totally different concept, you know, compared to nation building. That is a concept of, let's say, a monocultural approach, you know, of the nation. So it's the Western way of looking at nations. A nation needs to be homogeneous, you know, in terms of many political scientists like Huntington. If you want to create a stable country, you know, there should be a homogeneous nation. That is the ideal, the Eurocentric ideal. You know, in the case of Suriname, you know, it contradicts it, you know, so we never had really ethnic conflicts and cleansing. You know, there were some tensions during independence, but it is a totally different way of integration in the society. Okay, let me just take you I'm going to the end of this, to the diversity of the Indigenous and the Maroon people and the voting in the interior. So you see at the left in the legend, you see the indigenous peoples we have. You know, some are the same like in Guyana, you know, Calinya, Carib, Locono, Arawak. You have Arawak too, I think Trio, Brazil, Guyana, Suriname. And then we have the 6 Maroon groups. You see at the bottom, the Njuka, Samaka, Aluku, Pamaka, Matawai, Quinti. And the Maroon are now the 2nd largest ethnic group. If you count all these 6 tribal groups together, living in the city and in the interior, it is the 2nd largest ethnic group. But ethnicity is not the right word for the Maroons, but ethnicity is also a very flexible and fluid concept, because in terms of the Maroon tribes are actually more people, what they call in Portuguese, povos, or in Spanish, pueblos. You know, so they are 6 different peoples, like the indigenous peoples too. They are peoples povos rather than ethnic groups. But let me just show you what happened in the interior in this last election. And that's, I think these are the last slides. This is the interior district. The name is Sipaliwini. And you see only 22,000 voters. Yes, 22,374 voters. Valid votes, 10,000. So it's 47%. So the turnout is very low in the interior. You know, that is due to the logistics. Okay, remember only 22,374 voters, but you can win in the interior, the total interior, you can win, what is the number? 10 seats of the National Assembly, 10 of the 51 seats. So there are 3 interior districts. But I just take the Sipaliwini. And just to give you an idea, this is the east bordering river. So it's not a quarantine, that is the what we call the Marovini River. It's the border river, the frontier with French Guyana. And this is a polling station. The name is STOELMANSEILAND. So it is an island in the river. What they, in Maroon language, they call it Tabiki. And you see only 488 registered voters. And it is in the deep southeast of Suriname. There's a lot of gold, you know, that is the greenstone gold belt of Suriname. And just to show you what happened with these 488 registered voters, how they voted. Okay, this is the result of the same polling station. And you see that the ABOP at the top is the party of Brunswick. And the party of Brunswick, they are controlling, you know, this Maroena district, this part of the Sipaliwini district, you know, in terms of economic activities, but also in terms of their ethnicity, of their tribe, their tribal characteristic. And they casted only 47 votes. And if you compare with number 7, the BEP is another Maroon party that casted twice, 99 votes. So in fact, the BEP is a party that is very strong in a totally different district. You know, the hydroelectricity lake, we call it Brokopondo. And they won in that polling station from the ABOP. And that is very, very strange. And the 4th and the final seat, you see it in blue, in the largest interior district of Sipaliwini, went to the BEP. And that is a Maroon party with its stronghold outside this region. And this went at the expense of the NDP, that is the party of Bouterse, that lacked 729 votes in total to win the seat, the 4th seat in this electoral district. So this shows you that even a smaller party like BEP from another region and from another Maroon tribe, you know, succeeded in winning a seat. And what I showed you with the polling station is that that was really the pond, the place where they never, you know, theoretically could have that many votes cast. Anyway, so that was very typical in this election. So breaking through multi-ethnic barriers in this election was not only in the urban area, but also in the deep interior of Suriname. Okay, let me go to the end. In addition to the financial economic crisis, the question is why the NDP lost the 2020 elections. Now, 3 factors contributed to the loss of this NDP and to the victory of the oppositional parties. The first is the sharp dichotomy in the society resulting from an extreme entanglement of political and economic power elites, the extreme populism by the National Democratic Party, and of course, the power arrogance of the previous ruling NDP. The second reason is the financial and economic crisis, very deep financial and economic crisis. So if you look at the debt in Suriname and the budgetary deficits at this moment, it is uncountable, but that's all resulted from corruption and populism. Populism also in terms of a lot of social expenditure for very popular programs to win, the minds of the rank and file. And third, transition of political mobilization from imagined mono-ethnicity to imagined multi-ethnicity across all political parties. That was something new in Suriname, that all the parties, even the party of Brunswick, a Maroon party, represented itself as a multi-ethnic party. And the implication was that in the urban area, the coastal area, the VHP, so the traditional, before it was the traditional Hindustani party, that elite and middle class voters from non-Hindustani, non-East Indian ethnicity, many, maybe the majority, voted against the NDP. And the same holds for other larger oppositional parties, only to get rid of the NDP. So this was also an election of voting against, not voting for, but voting against the NDP. And finally, I show you these flags. In election, flags play a very interesting role. And if you cannot read Dutch or understand Dutch, below you see this is in urban Paramaribo. It is a small ghetto in a lower middle class area. And you see many flags of parties. And this was taken somewhere in, I think, 10 years ago, the election of 2010. But it's typical. You see, it's written God Save Met on Suriname, God bless Suriname, and then at the left, many things. But this is showing, the typical type of multi-ethnicity that was not there in 2010, in terms of flags, but it shows you what happened in 2020, that the Surinamese voters